So for those of you that don't know, I was given the opportunity to play the Splitgate 2 Alpha last week, and it wrapped up last Sunday, and I wanted to provide my thoughts how the game looks, feels, what could be some improvements to the game down the line for future alphas, betas, full release, etc., etc. But I wanted to give you guys a quick little overview of the difference between Splitgate 1 and Splitgate 2. So Splitgate 2 will officially be a class FPS shooter, similar to like Overwatch, except there's only going to be 3 factions instead of a list of heroes. The 3 factions include Arrows, which is your Portal Masters, your Speed Demons like Octane from Apex Legends, and like Duelists from Valorant. They are in the fight, in everybody's face. They get out super fast, and they're just there to be a fly on the wall and cause a nuisance, essentially. Every class has equipment too that I'll talk about in more detail, but the equipment for Arrows is actually a health stim that will instantly start health regen and a shock disc that stuns opponents' movement for a short time. That kind of helps you kind of clean up that kill if they're trying to make an escape or leave through portals or to fall back to their team. Their tactical ability, or their ult you could say, provides a quick burst of movement speed, reload speed, as well as give you a little bit of extra health. So if you think they're dead, they're probably not, because they'll just hop back in and be super fast and just crouch spam the whole time. So that's what I had to deal with the whole time. And then the Arrows weapons for the loadout were an AR, a carbine, and an SMG as the primary, and then they had a pistol as a secondary as well. The second class is Meridian. They are your support and healer class. Essentially, their equipment included what's called a time dome that would increase their movement speed, reload speed, and rate of fire to not only themselves, but also their allies. And if any enemies stepped inside the time dome, it was an inverse effect. So slower movement, slower reload, slower rate of fire. So it has those pros and cons if you're in it as an ally, or if you're in there as an enemy and it's sitting on an objective, you're going to be in there for a pretty tough time. Their ult or tactical ability is essentially wall hacks, similar to Bloodhound from Apex Legends, where you can activate it and it sends out a wide spread over the map. And if any enemy gets caught within the radius, there will be a little circle on their, I think it's their head or their chest, and it tracks their movement for like 4 or 5 seconds. So if they're on the point or if they're going to the point, you'll be able to kind of give that information to your teammates to say, hey, I've got 2 enemies going on to the point, or I got a guy right around the corner, he's super weak. Because you can also see health bars as well, which is very broken, but it was very useful to say the least when I was playing games like Hot Zone or Team Deathmatch, which I'll get into in a little bit. The Meridian's primaries were also an AR, a 4-round burst rifle, and a charged up shotgun that could only fire the pellet spread when it was fully charged. I really hope they make the change to where you can release it at any time, but the amount of charge that it has, the amount of damage it does. So if you quickly just spam fire it, it's going to not deal a lot of damage, but if you hold it for like 75%, it deals a pretty decent punch. So that's the one change I would say for their charged shotgun. And then finally, you have Sabrask, which is your heavy defensive class. Their equipment was basically a sticky grenade and a smoke grenade. When I played Sabrask, I was having a lot of fun with the sticky grenade because there was nothing more satisfying than sticking somebody with the sticky grenade, you unfortunately dying, but then picking up a kill or 2 along the way because they would run into their teammate and just explode everything, which is always fun. Their tactical ability is essentially a smart wall, and it'll let you and allies shoot through the wall on both sides. So regardless of where they're coming from, if you put it in front of you and there's an enemy behind you, you can turn around, go in front of the smart wall, turn around 180 degrees, fire it from the other direction, which I think is super cool. It was very helpful in the Hot Zone game mode, which, like I said, I'll talk to about that in just a moment here. And then Sabrask's primaries were basically an AR/LMG. It says AR, but I would say it's an LMG style format, and like how the design was, it was an LMG. A carbine and a shotgun, a normal shotgun. And I personally love the shotgun. It was very nice. The AR was kind of hard to control, in my personal opinion. I know it's probably just a skill issue, which most of the time it is, but I was mostly having fun with the shotgun, to say the least. The alpha also had 2 game modes. One of them was Team Deathmatch. It was a best of 5, first to 15 every round. I want to talk about that in a little bit. And then the other one was called Hot Zone. It's kind of like a King of the Hill, hardpoint style game mode from like things like Call of Duty or like Halo. And essentially, every time a teammate died, the respawn timer would increase by 1 up to a max of 20 seconds. And then every kill that your team would get while you're dead, your respawn timer would decrease by 4 seconds. So it incentivizes kind of slow, strategic play because you don't want to have a team wipe when the timer is at 20 seconds to respawn and just let the other team cap the point. And by the way, it is first to 2 captures, best of 5 as well. And it seems like they're trying to get into that habit of doing round-based game modes now instead of just straight up one game mode to rule them all, essentially. A lot of pros from the Splitgate 2 alpha that I really liked. One of them was team traits. So basically, each faction had a specific team trait. So as long as you had a member of that faction on your team, you are taking advantage of that team trait. Some of the team traits included faster cooldown on equipment, faster health or faster time before health regen kicks in, and then more reserve ammo when you spawn in. So it's very useful. You can also pick and choose how many faction members you want. So you could go 4 arrows or 3 Meridian and a Sabrask. But just remember, if you're missing a faction member, you are also missing out on that team trait as well. You got to keep that in mind when you're kind of building out your ideal team and loadout for every game. There were 3 new maps. A lot of them are very beautifully designed. They were smaller maps, not, you know, they were a lot smaller compared to Splitgate 1's maps. They probably incentivize fast-paced team play, which makes a lot of sense. And essentially, it's, you know, there was one that I think was on an airship. There was another one that was in kind of like a closed kind of arena style deal. And then there was another one that was kind of like an outskirts of Mars where it's a little bit out open, but there's also kind of a main bunker area as well. That was also exciting to see. A little bit of variety as well. I would love to see a lot of the Splitgate 1 maps come back because they would need to upgrade it from the Unreal Engine 5 scenario. But I know they've been trying to incentivize not having people camp. So a lot of those maps are probably not viable anymore, but we'll see what happens down the line. Movement felt really good as well. It was super smooth. They also added the ability to mantle and slide, which is also a nice touch. So movement just felt super crisp. And then there were attachments as well for all of the weapons. I think there were 6 or 7 attachments for all primary weapons, and then secondary weapons had I think 2 or 3 attachments. So that was kind of a nice touch as well. They were all unlocked, and I don't know if they're going to keep that going into, you know, the betas or the full release, or if we're going to have to do like a level up system like you know, Call of Duty. I'm hoping they keep all the attachments just unlocked so you can kind of just have fun with it rather than doing any unlocked stuff. But again, we'll have to wait and see when they talk about it more and, you know, the betas, the full release and things like that. The other thing too is that they had perks as well. So kind of like similar to like Cold-Blooded, Ninja, Dead Silence from like Call of Duty, there were perks as well. Each faction had 4 perks to choose from, and, you know, it helped, you know, kind of vary the gameplay a little bit differently. Essentially, some of the perks included faster cooldown on equipment, or their tactical abilities. Some of them also granted more ammo on kills, which was interesting. Or another one, I think it was Meridians, where you could see enemy walls, and if you hit an enemy with just by your shots, you were able to ping them on the map for your enemies. So it has a couple use cases, to say the least. And again, it's one of those things where you just have to just find what's useful for you in your build, or what loadout you want to run for that match. So again, just I thought it was kind of a nice little step too. All that being said, there aren't, there's not going to be pros without the cons, right? One of the main cons that I had was this whole round-based game mode scenario. And I felt like with a game mode like Team Deathmatch being a round-based game mode, I thought that felt weird because in Splitgate 1, it was one game, first to 40, whoever won, regardless of if you won by 1 or if you won by like 25. So I really hope they make the change to have TDM be a one game to rule them all first to 50. And then to have Hot Zone stay as a round-based game mode, I actually agree with it. I think having that kind of be the standard for that game mode, I think that would be kind of nice. But again, for games like TDM or like Domination, if they add it, wouldn't really make sense to have a round-based game mode, in my personal opinion. Another con that I had was kind of the time to kill. Time to kill seemed a lot faster, and it was actually confirmed by the devs in a Discord stage event that they said that the TTK for Splitgate 2 is about 10 to 20% faster than Splitgate 1. Personally, I didn't really like it. I know they were trying to push more, having the quick time to kill just so that if you are trying to, get a kill on an enemy, they're not just going to portal away and make the gameplay feel super slow, especially from like a team deathmatch perspective. So I do see the reason to increase the time to kill, but I know a lot of people, including myself, thought the TTK was, too fast. So they are going to have discussions on if they want to change it or not, to go back to the Splitgate 1 perspective. But again, we'll have to wait and see once the next alpha comes out. Another con that I had was respawns, especially when it comes to the game mode Hot Zone. I had some games where I would respawn with an enemy right next to me, and they would just get the free kill right away because they would be behind me, and I wouldn't have time to turn around fast enough. And that would just, increase the team's respawn timer. And if it was already maxed out at 20 seconds, because it doesn't refresh until the round is over, you would just die and then you have to wait 20 seconds, which personally I wasn't a fan of. I know they're thinking about changing the respawn timer from 20 seconds to 15 or to potentially 10 as the max for Hot Zone. So we'll have to wait and see what they say there. They haven't made a confirmation on that, but they'll be looking into that as well. Another con that I actually just thought of, and they did make the change to it in the alpha, was for Hot Zone as well. The capture progress was shared between both teams. So essentially, if you captured the point and you were at like 90%, and then everybody died, and then the enemy team hopped on the zone, they only had to fill up the last 10% to earn the point. So it got kind of annoying down the line. So now they in future alphas, they are going to remove the shared progress altogether. So everybody starts from 0, regardless of if you hop off and another team hops back on, goes back to 0. I like that change. Thank you, 1047, for doing that. The last con that I had, and one that I'm thinking off the top of my head, is there was no ability to change your faction. You were able to change your loadout, which I thought was amazing. However, there wasn't an option to change your faction. So it was kind of disappointing when your team had 3 Eros and a Meridian, but you didn't have a Sabrask, and Sabrask was super useful for Hot Zone, and you couldn't switch until the round was over. So if your team is not doing well with a certain faction, you should have the opportunity to change your faction at any time. Again, you'll still either get the opportunity to get the team traits or not. So I feel like they should make that change. I feel like it'd be a nice change, a pace, a good quality change, just so that if anybody needs to make a last minute change to kind of help their team get back in before the round is over, that'd be something too. But overall, I'll be honest with you guys, I felt that Splitgate 2 was an amazing game. I thought, with all the cons aside, I thought the game felt super polished. For being in an alpha, it looked super clean. The graphics, like I said, are on Unreal Engine 5, so I thought it was aesthetically pleasing. I was running the game on high or medium, and I wasn't really experiencing a lot of network stability. I know they brought in a lot of people through just getting requested access on Steam or from Twitch drops. I know they had a bunch of Twitch drop events too. And, you know, I want this game to be successful. I loved Splitgate 1 and I can't wait to see where, you know, Splitgate 2 goes. The biggest thing that I have is to make sure that they balance not only the factions and their abilities and perks and all that stuff, but they also now need to balance all of the guns, all the equipment, and everything else. So I don't know if it's going to be a lot for them to handle. I know they've got way more people on it, so that should be a good sign. We'll have to wait and see how this goes. The nice thing is that if you did play this past alpha, you are automatically in for all future alphas. So that's pretty awesome. So again, feel free to keep giving them feedback. Another big positive just overall is that these devs at 1047 really care about our feedback. There was so many people in the Discord, you know, giving feedback saying, hey, please look into this. This doesn't make any sense. You should probably change this. And they listened to it. You know, they listened to the feedback. They're like, hey, we're going to take a look at it. They've been holding Q&As. They've been putting polls out on the Discords too to get our feedback on what we think, you know, is something that we would want for the history of the game. And they want to start off on the right foot. So I think that is, you know, that's hopefully going to be something that, you know, they carry with going into betas and future release. But I also want to make sure that they keep their main identity hopefully focused on the Portal aspect of it and not just gunplay. I know gunplay is super important, but what made Splitgate 1 so great was the ability to have the Portal aspect, to be able to go from point A to point B to point C in a blink of an eye, to make those high momentum, you know, trick shots in the air, and to keep that identity how it is. And if they get rid of that identity, it's just going to be another first-person shooter game like Halo or Call of Duty, in my opinion. So as long as they stick with that main identity, I think they'll be fine. Well, folks, that's all I got with regards to the Splitgate 2 alpha. I'm excited to hear more. Once I hear more information about the next alpha, I will surely make a video on that, and I will let everybody know. If you guys want to watch any other videos that I have, make sure you guys go check out the YouTube. If you guys want to see more Splitgate 2 content in the future, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you guys so much for stopping by, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.